speech. And it's like unbelievably garbled. A combination of Mexican history that includes George Washington. All of these other characters get mixed in there. It's just fabulous. So I can hear what some of you are saying. Hey, Beezley, why don't you read some of it? No way. I published this. Buy the book. Come on. You know, so the book that I wrote that I liked the best is a book called Judas at the Jockey Club. Judas figures are figures that are made of paper mache, and they're sold for people to destroy either on Holy Saturday or on Easter Sunday. It depends, you know, what people's traditions are when they're going to do this. And the idea initially was that these figures would be images of Judas, and there's some biblical connection there with the destruction of Judas, who supposedly hanged himself in remorse, and then his body exploded. So that's the connection. And most of the time, these Judas figures explode. They blow up. Sometimes they're full of things, sometimes they're not. And they're just really, really fun to have. And what people who make them do is to get representatives of the local community or national politics or international politics. Can you believe this? A couple of years ago, well, 8. Yeah, you could get a Bush Judas if you wanted to and blow him up. And there, you can always get Border Patrol Judases and blow them up if you're in the mood to blow those up. And lately, the most popular Judas figure is Peña Nieto. And here it is. This is the Zocalo in Mexico City, and this is being blown. This is where he's being burned. The two figures in the background there, interesting. Villa and Zapata.
What?
Those are supposed to be Villa and Zapata looking on. Yes, I know. I've seen the big blow-ups. I know that it says underneath they're Villa and Zapata.
Well, they are.
Now, I'm going to really conclude here. I don't want to. So I'm getting pretty excited about this. But I want to conclude here by looking at this monument that Posada drew and circulated. And this monument he proposed as a monument to the people of Mexico because Porfirio Diaz was proposing a monument to Porfirio Diaz. And so Posada decided, hey, we should have this one. This was his monument. Now here's something fun to discuss and think about. Many people talk about not literacy, but they talk about literacies, different kinds of literacy that many people have. This is not particularly, I mean, it's pretty funny. Here's how it's really funny. This is like one of the great classic monuments in Italy. It's in the Vatican. It has to do with the story of what happened in the Trojan War. And so there you see it. Snakes destroyed these guys, the father Laocoon and his two sons, for saying beware of Greeks bearing gifts, and there are soldiers inside the horse. Well, they weren't believed. And this is what the gods did to them. What does this tell us? That this is pretty funny, that this is pretty interesting. It tells the story of what's going on in Mexico. Look at the snakes, what they are. Cacicasco is like bossism, local bossism of caciques. Misery is the big snake around the pueblo there, that guy. And I can't read the other one. Viva la Pinca is like a whip made with the leaves of cactus, the Pinca. And so this is pretty funny and people get it. But many people saw more because they knew this, because they were aware of the traditions of Western art and Western culture. This kind of thing showed up not just in Posada's pages, but in different floats that were put together for Independence Day, or showed up in canvas paintings where kids would go and have their photograph taken as early as there were cameras during different holidays. This was like a major thing to do. And so there's a literacy here that we don't often see, and we underestimate the knowledge that people have that's displayed in broadsides, comic books, posadas. Oh, I have to tell you one more thing, then I really am going to quit. Here's the thing, looking at posadas. The thing about posadas is there's a lot of discussion of calaveras. Calaveras, skulls, right? The calaveras in posadas, and you've seen some, like you saw the Gran Calavera. But calaveras are often also mean last will and testament. And those are really, really funny. So, you want to tell a joke to your instructor? My students would write, my last will and testament. And you can imagine the kind of stuff they would say. So, last will and testament of William Beezley. I want to be buried clean shaven. What the hell? That's not going to happen. You know, I have to live on to keep that kind of thing can happen. Those things are printed in newspapers and distributed all over the place. So when you go to Oaxaca and you see different Day of the Dead altars like the wonderful one in the library, there would also be last wills and testaments that people have written. Believe me, there were last wills and testaments a few days ago for Peña Nieto. Because that's what you want to do, is make fun of people in a satirical way by giving their last will and testament. And this is so much fun. The only problem is you may not get the joke. I said I was going to end, and I said I was going to end by telling you a joke. So I'll tell you one joke. President Kennedy had a reputation of being a ladies' man. Now, this may be news to some of you, but yes, he had this reputation. President Lopez Mateos in Mexico viewed himself as a Kennedy-like figure. And he thought he was quite the ladies' man. Kennedy And Jackie went to Mexico City to visit the Lopez Mateos people. And so in the presidential office, Lopez Mateos and Kennedy are talking, and Kennedy said, "Mr. President, I really admire your watch." Lopez Mateo took off his watch, gave it to Kennedy, and said, "Here you are, Mr. President." And he said, "Oh, God, that's so generous. How about you? What would you like?" Lopez Mateo looked him in the eye and said, "Mr. President, I admire your wife." "Wait," Kennedy said. "Mr. President, here's your watch back." That's it.